residents in the city. They had been shutting off water for years, but nowhere on this scale.
Welcome, welcome, beloved community. We are back again with yet another installment of the People's Water Board Coalition's Water Wednesday webcast. As always, I'm here with my beloved co-host, Valerie Jean.
Hi, everyone.
And we can't forget our behind-the-scenes tech guru extraordinaire, Miss Angelica, that keeps us running smoothly week after week. She does absolutely marvelous with our tech. And today, we have a familiar guest to some of our viewers who've been watching our show. We have Miss Elin Betanzo, and she's here today to talk about what's going on as far as water issues in the city of Highland Park. And she's from Safe Water Engineering LLC. And I know you've seen her before, probably on here talking about lead service line removal, replacements and things, the lead and copper rule revision. But today she's going to talk to us about what's going on in Highland Park. So it's a short show, and I'll turn it over to Val, and we'll jump right into it.
Thanks for being here, Elin. Really appreciate you and the work that you've dedicated your life to do. Really, it saves lives, and we appreciate you so much. Thank you. I live just a half a block, literally, outside of Highland Park. And so a lot of my neighbors and people were calling in and asking, do we know anything about the boiled water advisories? Because they keep getting more frequent and more frequent. When I started talking to some of my neighbors, they said that's just the way it's going to be. It's going to be that way until everything is changed out. Can you give us, some sort of like why there has been frequent boiled water advisories in Highland Park? We'll start there and see if we can get into the woods, a little bit more.
Yeah. So in Highland Park, there are several different issues that are kind of piling up on each other right now and causing these more frequent boiled water advisories. So we know Highland Park is an older city. The pipes there are very old, and so they're fragile. So when there's changes in flow, changes in pressure there, we're having more frequent breaks. Now, one of the things that's happening in Highland Park, they've been receiving water from the Great Lakes Water Authority for over 10 years now, but we're replacing those interconnections with master meters. They had been getting water through those connections unmetered because they were originally established as emergency connections that didn't have to be metered because they had the water plant in Highland Park. But when they closed the water plant, went on Great Lakes Water Authority water, they opened up these 3 interconnections, but now we need to meter those. But that means infrastructure upgrades. That means turning off the water at the different interconnections and changing the flow paths throughout the city of Highland Park. So you take those old pipes, new flow paths, and maybe sometimes there have been some closed valves here and there where in a previous repair, they didn't get open. So now everything is interrupted. And so that's kind of what's happening here. It's these things layering on top of each other. That new flow path hits a weak piece of pipe. You get a water main break, and then the water's flowing out of the pipe. The pressure drops, and that's what's happening right now. When there is a pressure drop, there is this a requirement to do this boil water advisory, and that's when the pressure gets below that metric of 20 pounds per square inch. And the idea is that usually when water is flowing through the pipes, it's at full flow, it's at full pressure. And so if there's any holes or weaknesses in the pipe, the water is flowing out. It's clean water and it's flowing out. But when the pressure drops, then the pipe's not full. If there's holes or weaknesses in that pipe, then if there's water outside that might be contaminated, it can flow in. We don't want to drink contaminated water. So when that pressure drops, it's this preventative boil water advisory. In case contamination got in that pipe, we're going to boil it because that will kill any microorganisms that could be present and could make people sick. So it's not that we know the water is contaminated, but we know that this mechanism of contamination could be happening, and we can't measure everywhere all at once. So it's
So it's a
preventative
safety
action.
measure. Yeah, preventative action. Yeah. Yeah, it's really it concerns people so much, but it is really preventative when it comes to that. Mm-hmm.
Right. And part of the issue there is so you've got a pressure drop. They measure a pressure drop. It went down to 20 psi and, a large portion of the city. And then that water flows. We don't know where it went next, especially when we're changing flow paths because of infrastructure work that's happening right now. And so then you have to keep boiling the water until they do the repeat tests to make sure that they're not measuring microbial contaminants in the drinking water. So that's why the low pressure could be a short event, but the boil water advisory lasts at least 3 days because you want to do repeat sampling to make sure you're not finding it moving all around the water system.
Elin, is it going to take a long time to replace all of the, because it's good that the water infrastructure is being upgraded. This is great.
Yes.
Right? Even though it's difficult for people in the interim, this is great news because the pipes are very old. But
Right.
do you have any idea how long that's going to take? Like, how long do you think that this is the changing of the infrastructure is going to take?
Right. So the plan is to replace all the water mains in Highland Park. And that's doable in a confined amount of time because it's a small area. Detroit is huge. They're on a 30, 40-year plan in Detroit. Highland Park, I think their plan is about 5 years to replace all those water mains.
That's a long time.
So, in some ways, 5 years is a very long time. In other ways, 5 years is a very short time.
Yeah.
So I think it's really great for the community to think that, in 5 years, we could have all new water mains. We can have all the lead service lines replaced, brand new infrastructure, and just ready to go with high quality water. And these interruptions, the water main breaks, the low pressure should be, minimal after the infrastructure renewal.
Elin, do they know what type of microorganisms possibly could get into the water?
Well, we do regular sampling under the Safe Drinking Water Act for total coliforms, and these are an indicator organism that they're common in soil, but they also include E. coli and other organisms that can cause disease. But we want to monitor for the big category because we want to see, can something from outside get inside? So that's why we measure this kind of broad category of total coliforms. And so we do that regularly. Highland Park takes 10 total coliform samples every month in compliance with the rules. But then when there's a boil water advisory, they take additional ones to find out, did any contamination get in? Is it moving around the water system?
Okay. And then if Highland Park is on the Detroit water system, why is Highland Park the only one receiving a boil advisory alert?
Yeah. So Detroit DWSD is all around Highland Park. Highland Park is an island in the center. So the pipes in Detroit are all interconnected on a grid. When you get to the city of Highland Park, there's 3 interconnections. There's the main one is on the north side of the city, and then there's 2 on the south side. So the water has to go through these specific interconnection points and flow through, and then it goes through the network of Highland Park. So when there is a water main break within Highland Park, it's confined to it. You kind of set up a boundary with those 3 interconnections. Like the water has to get past there, and then something happens. So that's where the pressure reduction is confined. If Highland Park were, just on the same grid and the same network as all of Detroit, if there was a water main break probably wouldn't cause as much of a pressure drop because it'd be so networked in that grid. There'd be so many ways for the water to flow, you wouldn't have the pressure drop. So part of Highland Park is
Is-
somewhat isolated.
Yeah.
And so that when there is a main break, there's a pressure drop, boil water advisory.
Okay. So if it was like, for instance, the opposite, and say a pressure drop occurred in Detroit, would that still trigger a boil advisory in Highland Park?
It depends on where it is. So, as Valerie was saying, you live a half a block from
Yeah.
Highland Park. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
So, you could have a water main break at your house, or near your house, I should say.
Right.
And so, if it's a large break and there's a big pressure drop, and you're right by one of those interconnections, that means the pressure drops before it flows into Highland Park. So that water main break could trigger a boil water advisory for all of Highland Park. But
Okay.
if it's over in a different part of the city, it would have to be like a super catastrophic main break that, like the one in February, the Great Lakes Water Authority transmission main break
In
that,
Southwest Detroit.
yeah,
Catastrophic.
yeah, and that then you would need something like that would to bring down a lot of Detroit plus Highland Park. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's, I know it's all really complicated that's why I like when you explain it, because it's easy for people to understand. It's
Very
you don't
much
get too
so.
far into the weeds with it. And it I understand now why I'm not getting boil water advisories, right? Because because there's just those lines that are going into Highland Park. So I understand it now. What do people know to keep their family? What do they need to know to keep their family safe right now during this, this interim? Should they be getting filters? Should they? What can people do to, as safe practice during the infrastructure update, which could last up to 5 years, right?
Right. So the using filters during a boil water advisory, knowing what to do with them is really important, because a lot of residents in Highland Park do use lead reducing water filters because there has been a lead action level exceedance in Highland Park. We know that the majority of homes in Highland Park do have a lead service line. So I recommend using a certified lead reducing filter. But a certified lead reducing filter is not going to help you with microbial contaminants. So when there is a boil water advisory, it starts to get a little tricky. So what we recommend if you use a filter is filter it first, then boil the water, then drink it, because you don't want to boil the water, then filter it, because hot water will ruin the filter. It'll make it ineffective for reducing the lead. So you want to filter first, then boil it. But then when the boil water advisory is lifted, you need to change your filter cartridge, because if there was microbial contaminants and it got into that filter is made of carbon. It's bug food. So if we don't know, part of the problem, it was a preventative boil water advisory, but if contamination got in, we don't want to encourage it. So if microbial contamination got into that cartridge, it's going to start eating and growing. So during the boil water advisory, there's still a risk of lead. So you filter first, then you boil it. Then when it's done, take out that cartridge, put a new one in, and then you're good to go.
That's really important. We actually should make a graphic to share around like those specific. Maybe I'll make one today.
Yeah,
Because
I think
it's something that people are. There's no way that they would think of those steps naturally.
We did try to put it out in the boil water advisories. And so that language was included when the city of Highland Park put that information out. But whether people read that far, the more people we can get this message out, the more important it is. It's been an issue in Flint where they have continued main breaks and boil water advisories and a need for filters.
Yeah.
So,
and it's the same.
The other important thing to make sure that people know is that filter, we use it for lead. Some people think, oh, it's a filter, my water's fine, it takes care of everything. Those filters don't take care of everything. They're here for the lead.
Yeah. Is it the same thing? It's the same thing in Flint too. Like they're having their pipes replaced.
Yes.
Right. And so it's kind of the same problem as folks in Highland Park are having.
Perhaps we should do a filter first campaign.
Yeah. Well, they had a filter first campaign. Right.
Well, so we do have filter first rules for schools and childcares in Michigan now, where we install
Which
filters
is
for
so
drinking
great.
water. So there are so many different ways we can filter first for public health protection.
Yeah, it's to our viewers, this is really important information. We want you to share it with folks, and make sure that we're keeping our families and our communities safe the best way that we can.
Yes, and please
Yeah.
know to filter first, then boil.
Yes. And then change your filter.
Yes.
So it's a 3-step process.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts, Elin, before we go? Anything that we missed that the public really needs to know?
Because of the history in Highland Park, we haven't always had pressure monitors in the city, but they, over the past month, have installed some pressure recorders. So we are collecting more data in more places because when we went into this series of boil water advisories, it was residents, calling in saying my water pressure's low, what's going on, and then going out and investigating that. But now there are pressure monitors and we're getting pressure readings 24 hours a day. And so that
Great.
allows the water department now to study, figure out what's happening. We're trying to figure out right now, like what we're seeing right now. Do we now have measurements for what was always normal and all the up and down pressure fluctuations?
Yeah.
Or, do we continue to see, new events in the data? So stay tuned as we collect more data. We're able to study it and do more troubleshooting because there could be more opportunities to resolve these pressure issues faster now that we've got more data to work.
That's great.
Okay. Well, that is absolutely wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I love data.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Well, anytime it's being monitored by a concerned entity, right? That's not like a corporation or something. Anytime that data is being monitored, it's in that kind of way, it saves lives. It's life-saving stuff.
Absolutely.
It's really important. Thank you, Elin, very much. Like for all of the work that you do, and thanks for coming on the show always to help us kind of understand what's happening and take a deep dive into it.
And
to
for
our
always
viewers,
making it digestible for our
Yeah.
viewers.
it
Absolutely.
really it's helpful. It is. I agree. And to our viewers, share this show. Let's have a conversation with our community, with your communities, your family and friends, and let's keep each other safe. Until next time, try to stay afloat. Bye.